Okay, that is the first track on Raze the Maze new album, or Mazes, I guess. New album, 7 a.m. Dream, and we have them live. It's Moorea and Tarik out in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Anthony.
Thanks for having us, buddy. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Of course. And we did an interview on your previous Raze the Maze album. I think that was the first time we featured you on the site.
Yeah.
And and I just have to say, if there's a band that knows how to kick off an album, or if there's like a musical group, because you did this with MoeTar too, your first tracks were like punches in the gut. They're so cool, and like as soon as I put on this album, I was like, that's it, we're doing the interview. There's just no choice.
Yay.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Usually that comes from my personal lack of attention in general, and so I'm like, it's got to be really heavy out the gate.
Yeah.
People aren't going to listen to the second track, the first track. Just to put like our strongest material first. That has always been kind of the thinking.
Yeah.
Well, you guys kill it. And secondly, it's always funny to me when I put on an album, especially in our prog genre. And it's like 6 minutes of rainforest noises while like some chord is swelling. And then you're like, come on, you know, first time it might be a little cool, but then every time after you end up skipping to when the music starts. And then your albums just are like trains. They just go. So I love that.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
I will admit our very first record we ever did together was a band called No Origin, and the first track was a soundscape. A soundscape that lasted like, I don't know, 45 seconds, but you could skip it to track 2. It was its own track.
At least you're bold enough to admit your mistake.
I haven't done it since. I'll put it
Awesome. So tell us about this album. It kind of just dropped out of nowhere. I didn't hear anything from either of you for a while. And then it was, hey, we have a new album. So was this like a pandemic project or what?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely started this probably before the pandemic. And then once that happened, in the lockdown, it just sort of put us more into gear to, have something to do, I guess you might say. But also it kind of afforded us some time to end, the luxury of being home more. We both work remotely from home, so, we could put in more time that way. So, yeah, it's just been a labor of love for the last maybe 2.5 years.
Yeah, and I know you have different responsibilities in your musical projects. Tarik, you're typically the writer, correct?
Yeah. So generally I write the songs and, the chord changes, the lyrics and the melody, but then I hand it off to Moorea, and then she really just takes off with it, with the vocal arranging and interpretations of the melody and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love... Actually, Moorea, I love the video that you put out just recently where you're exploring the background parts and the arrangements of the songs. And you're just grooving and then singing like the real parts. And I actually have really loved seeing you listening and enjoying the music and then singing along. You have such a great voice and so much enthusiasm for the music. So I feel like it's hard to listen to this and not get happy or not smile, despite Tarik's often skeptical lyrics.
Yeah.
I know. Totally.
Well, I will say that on this, I feel like this record is a little bit of a departure from that. I mean, I feel like the other, like especially in MoeTar, and then if you go back a few years, that kind of pessimistic, I guess, sort of, dystopian take on life felt like a luxury compared to, now it's like, ooh, I don't want to talk about that anymore. It's,
it's a little more cerebral, a little heavier, a little more internal.
Yeah, this record sort of was an attempt at sort of tapping into the subconscious and dream states and stuff, hence the title.
Yeah, and you're also an artist. You do the painting, the artwork that's on the cover of the album, which is super awesome. Your paintings are a bit psychedelic and I guess fractalized or something. A lot of repeating shapes, so you can see on the screen. Streamers right now can see the album cover. You want to talk about your approach to art?
Sure. Yeah, well, the last couple of years, I started this series of these kind of symmetrical, I don't know, like totems, for lack of a better word, but kind of based around or borrowing a lot from pop culture. Actually, it's funny to say, but the initial impetus was kind of around Bugs Bunny for some weird reason, and then like a lot of childhood memories. So there's some Star Wars, and there's kind of all these different amalgamations of influences from childhood times thrown in, but also as a I don't know, I guess as a reflection of how we sort of deify pop culture, because they're kind of they have a little bit of like maybe a religious almost connotation to them, in that like hero of 1,000 faces type thing, or mythological, maybe not religious is probably a better way of saying, So yeah, I started the series a couple of years ago, and I've just kind of it's been evolving and changing, and I'm set to start on some more actually soon, very soon. I'm really excited.
It just seemed kind of his art. He'd finished a series kind of close to the time we were wrapping up this album, so it just kind of seemed to make sense to have him paint one for the record cover and just kind of tie it all together.
Yeah, the record cover is sort of definitely off of the same trope of like putting our faces together in this sort of like the same way that a lot of the art I've been doing, and then also there's in the middle part there's some references to the lyrics in the song we just heard. So look for that, everyone.
Yeah, it was just before we went online that I thought, I wonder if that's Tarik on the bottom and Moorea on the top.
Yeah,
definitely. That is.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the whale. Anytime I see a whale sort of in space, I just think of Hitchhiker's Guide. Where
totally.
There you go.
That's a reference to that lyric in the song we just heard.
Oh, is it?
Set our sails for ghost white whales.
Yeah, there's a little boat back there too. If you could.
Yeah,
I always like when we were pressing vinyl with it, and so I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for bigger art, so I could get a little more detail in there, which is what I always loved as a kid looking at vinyl. You find all these like hidden meanings and stuff in the artwork, so.
Yeah, so the piece itself is 4 by 4 feet canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sell this art too, so I don't know if you have anything available for sale or if you sell it through Bandcamp, but if you go follow Moorea and Raze the Maze, you'll get updates on artwork and stuff like that, and its availability for purchase. So
yeah,
definitely, yeah.
We're gonna put some prints up on the Bandcamp site soon, and the original pieces are a little harder to ship, but they are for sale on Tarik's site.
Cool.
Tarik Ragab.
All right, so let's get to another song. Let's see. Coulter McCorkindale, he's on the Make Word Music team. He says, "Don't kill the whale." Chim Chu Ri says, "It's the whale from Gojira." Eric Schmidt said, "I've looked at the cover a lot, but never noticed the mushrooms," and then kind of side eyes.
Nice.
Cool. So I actually, for this album, I just recommend putting it on and listening straight through. That's what I've done 3 or 4 times in the last week. I don't listen to a lot of music, which may sound contrary to the purpose of the site, but like I think a lot of creative people or creative listeners, it's like once you find one thing, it's like you would just want to suck all the juice out of it, and this album has a lot of juice to get out of it. It's a very, very, flavorful and powerful album with tons to dig into. So yeah, well, let's just go straight into the second track, the title track, 7 a.m. Dream. Anything you want to prep the audience to hear?
Well, I mean, the idea, I guess, kind of conceptually for this was that the song is made of a bunch of like little fragments. So I was kind of trying to go for this, like, again, the dream state, you know, how fragmentary the dream state can be, where things can shift, like, you know, within, or sometimes overlap. But then there's this big, like, epic ending to it too. So I don't know. That's about it.
Listen for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah.
10 grievances, mine's marble, and survey says acts of marvel. Camera souls and cannons fire the bombshell ticker tape. Sin sacred glass, sin saviors, sell documents, legal waivers. The melted money meter releases sweeter, like anagrams of stereo with glow. Done up in glam and super mad. Disclosures and false witness, misnovas and morning hit list. Double barrel, sign your name in mud and blood as advertised of there. The empathetic geyser is none the wiser. The metadata cinematic flame, ghostly guarded banshee silhouettes the palisades. Your name in light above the marquee. Exposure one and listless, devotional motion sickness, terrifying, verify the pennies and pennies in audible audience. With their unemployment acts and by design reacts, and watch them jumping through the hoops and empty rings. A time forever in a loop, a murder thief. This dissonance, cognition, consciousness on recognition. Is this purgatory or just another story? Or do we really have to say before we're anymore? Stepping through the door, I think I know the way. This time is all in your head and mind, and roll out the big mistakes. Everything that you cannot replace. Haze the bills, the gallery painted portraits of shooting you down today. You'll never get back what you can't repay. Time is all in your head and mind, and roll out the big mistakes. Everything that you cannot replace. Haze abuse, the gallery paints its portraits of shooting you down today. You'll never get back what you can't repay.
So good. Another art form I feel like you have mastered over the years is song length. The last MoeTar album, there's a couple of songs where I just think, oh my goodness, it's that perfect, just short enough that you want to listen to it right away again. But there were only a couple of songs like that. And then the Raze The Maze album, the first one, at least half of it was like that. But this album is like, nope, you've honed in whatever that is. That skill is is on display here in this album. It's like, oh, as soon as the song's over, I just want to hit back.
Nice.
Oh man,
That's
awesome.
the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we have a couple people in the stream who just bought it based on what they've heard. So obviously that's why we're here. Like there is this link here in the corner, RazeTheMazeMusic.com. Please go there, buy this album. Make Weird Music exists to put a light on artists like Moorea and Tarik, and to get people to buy their music. So please hit that URL and buy it. And then if you hit that like button on the video, that signals to YouTube that this is something that more people should see. So definitely let's get the word out about this music. But anyway, you were going to say, Tarik.
Oh, I think I always like the idea of sort of going the other way on with the prog stuff, and just doing because I'm also a big pop fan. So like just doing the 3-minute pop tune, but with this proggy sort of vibe going, So.
Yeah, Moorea, tell me about your approach to vocals, because it's definitely evolved over time, and I feel like on this album you're really just it's like a hitting a brick wall, like, of power. I don't mean that in a limiting way. I mean it like, holy cow, there's so much. She's belting it out, and it sounds like you're only at 50% half the time.
Well, I am a kind of a vocal technique nerd. So yeah, that is the goal too. But I think part of what happened with this album, by nature of it being COVID and us doing it in a really different way, all pretty much on our own time at home, but then also without going into a studio, without working with all these other instrumentalists, which has always been how we've recorded albums. We were really trying to fill in as much as we could on our own. We used Terry Branham on drums for the whole album, and he completely crushed it. And Paul Hansen is on 3 tunes, and then we have the full live band. So those two, including Colin Hogan and Brian Shue on 1 track, Pax Arcana. But the rest of the songs is just Terry, Tarik, and me. And so I ended up doing a lot more kind of massive vocal orchestration stuff, or just to fill in. It's like we would track all the basics and get the stuff down, and then we'd kind of be listening to it and be like, still needs more. Like, it needs something else. Like, it needs more. And it felt like, well, we could do a synth here, or I could do what I think the synth would do, but do it with vocals instead, And I was like, let's do that. That's different. That's interesting. That'll be cool. I have a big a cappella background and all that stuff. So I was excited at the idea of taking on that task of like, can I do the extra stuff just with the voice that we feel like this needs to get it to where it wants to be. And at any point, if I didn't feel like it was working, we would have brought in somebody else, and we talked about that. But every time it was like, yeah, just kind of kept adding stuff. And so at least to the background vocal parts, that was part of how that all came about.
And I have to say, the mix on this album is really solid. And I mentioned earlier that it's the kind of album that you can really dig into. Your vocals are, they're almost like a hidden treasure across the album, because you think you're hearing everything, but then like deep in the background, panned right or panned left or somewhere, there's like a whole other layer. I just think of it as like a tiered garden of vocals, because it sounds very organic, and you have the microphone picks up your voice really well. I don't know if you've like sought out the right microphone, but there's a great texture to your voice, listening to you sing all of these layers, and the mix it's understated, but not so understated that you can't hear it. I feel like everything is just delicately right on this album.
Well, we worked with Alberto Hernandez, who we worked with on the last record, and we met him toward the end of MoeTar's career. On an Undercover Presents project, he mixed something for us, and we were just blown. Like, we are used to every time going into mix and having it be days and days and days and really long, crazy hours and just taking forever. And he mixed this song of ours. It's super dense and crazy in like a couple hours. And we're like, what was that magic? He just wielded. And we liked the mix,
Yeah.
So at this point, we've worked with him quite a bit, and he gets and understands our music and us so well now that it's like, well, we will never work with anyone else as long as he will have us, and we love him so much. And that social media reel that you referenced earlier when I was singing along with the track, some background vocals, I made a whole series of those. And that's kind of why, because there's all these really dense vocal parts that I don't even know if people can tell they are. And I just thought it'd be cool. I have like a lot of vocalists in my feeds and stuff, so I feel like it'd be fun. I'm doing a little series to try and showcase like what are some of these kind of hidden, tucked away inner background parts, and like kind of pull them out and showcase them a little bit.
Well, it sounds great, and the recording's good, and the songwriting, the performances, just everything is top notch. We're about to wrap up. We got just a couple minutes left, but why don't you tell people the best way they can support this project and any upcoming plans that you might want to share?
Yeah, well, the website's razethemazemusic.com, and at bandcamp.razethemaze.com, you can purchase the album. CD vinyl is on pre-sale, and you can buy the digital record. It's also on every streaming platform possible at this point, so you can just go listen to it like that. And we will keep making lots of music. And the next thing coming out from us is we're doing a collaboration with the amazing Paul Hansen on bassoon. It's a batch where we've had him on our record. Now it's it's kind of a full collaboration. It's his writing, his songs. Tarik is writing the lyrics. I'm singing vocals on everything. Tarik's playing bass, but it's a little bit more like from his mind and then melding with ours. So it's going to be a really great, it's an amazing collaboration that's just kind of kicking off, but we expect that to happen, come out probably later this year or early 2023 is my guess.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. And if you're in the Bay Area, we are playing an album release show at the Ivy Room in Berkeley on October 27th. And
full band.
Full rock band style.
And there are physical copies of this album if anyone's interested, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the physical copies can be purchased at the razethemaze.bandcamp.com. Yes.
Excellent. Cool. So Paul Hansen is here in the chat, and actually so is Daniele Gottardo, who is tomorrow's live stream guest.
Hi.
Paul, great to see you. And if you haven't seen any of Paul's amazing performances, go look him up on YouTube. I have some videos that I still need to release of when he came out to play for my 40th birthday in January with Michael Manring. So I'm just behind the ball on some of that, but I'll be releasing some new Paul Hansen video stuff. And he did just play on my new single called Brex, B-R-E-X. You can find that on the Make Word Music channel as well. So yeah, anyone who likes what they've heard, please go to razethemazemusic.com. You see the URL in the lower left corner of the screen. It should also be in the video description. Support these guys and buy their music. And this is how good new music gets made. I made a video a few months ago called New Music Sucks because I hear so much. I hear so many people complaining, oh, no good music since the 1970s. That is absurd. This is incredible music, and there's tons of great new music coming out every single month. Bandcamp Friday is coming up in a few weeks, and that's a time when you can buy music, and 100% of the proceeds on Bandcamp go directly to the artists. But I just recommend going and buying the album when the desire hits, like right now. So.
Definitely.
Again, thank you, Moorea and Tarik, for joining us, and really appreciate your new art project and can't wait to hear what you're working on with Paul.
Thank you, Anthony, for everything you do with Make Weird Music. You're a treasure. We love you.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anyone wants to support Make Weird Music, just click the join button down below the video player. It's $3 a month, and you basically get early access to a ton of stuff there's literally 10 hours of stuff on there that I just won't ever release because I don't have the time to edit it all into a quick 10-minute video. So you get full concert streams, you get a lot of stuff for it. And if we can bring Moorea and Tarik and Paul out for a concert early next year, you'll get to stream that too. So we're working on that. See what happens then. All right, we're going to close with, let's see, Letters from the Parking Lots, track number 3. You like the music, go buy it. Moorea, Tarik, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anthony.
All right, here we go.